I want to take some time to discuss the Empty Earth. It's a place on my channel that I actually have not touched on yet, and it's fascinating. In my opinion, it's one of the most unexplainable places in all of Zombies, and I think it could be good to start a discussion on. We were first teased about the Empty Earth, or at least the first time we realized we were being teased about the Empty Earth, comes from the Call of Duty Zombies comic issue 3. Victus steps into these pods and the machine starts to check their blood. Stuhlinger explains that Richtofen told him that the machine is basically checking to know whether or not they're human and to make sure they're not zombies. Then the crew are teleported and they're sent to this forest. This is where the comic ends. It's left on a cliffhanger and it teases our characters entering this forest. We didn't know much about it. To us, it could just be a regular old forest. Issue 4 of the Call of Duty Zombies comic is when we actually start to explore this place. Stuhlinger is walking around it and he notices that when he touches a tree, it starts to dissipate. And Richtofen begins to explain what's going on with the Empty Earth. He says, your friends, your companions believe that this world is their sanctuary. As you can see, they are mistaken. This is a tangent timeline, specifically one where human life never occurred. But you brought human life, and I suppose, unlife to it. This is, I believe, causing the temporal tangent to collapse. This started when Maxis had established this base. Your presence has accelerated it. As the comic went on, we then learn that this is actually the location of the Chronorium, and this is where Stuhlinger is able to recover the Chronorium for Richtofen. This is all we really learned about the Empty Earth from issue 4 of the comic, and there wasn't really much to draw from it. It was just this new place we had discovered, but there were still so many other questions we had. For example, when did Maxis make this place? Why is there so much stuff from other universes here? Why is the Chronorium here? What Maxis or which Maxis had actually made this place? And what is this place even called? We don't even have a name for this place. It's just a new tangential timeline. And are there other tangential timelines like it? And this is where the questions for this new location started to arise, because it's one of the most unique places in all of Zombies. I mean, it's the home of the Chronorium. It's also a place where the zombies don't seem to be really attacking anybody. What's going on here? This place is incredibly bizarre. Now, the timeline actually began to answer some of our questions. For example, we have the Chronorium retrieved. Upon arriving at Zero Base, Victus provides blood samples that allow them to access the Empty Earth and recover the Chronorium. We then have the rediscovery of the Empty Earth. Having observed Monty for some time, Maxis uses the teleporter in the basement of the house to study and explore other dimensions. Among them is the Empty Earth, where an alternate Maxis had constructed Zero Base, a place that houses artifacts and replicas collected from a multitude of different timelines. However, his attempt to manipulate the Empty Earth created a reality too fragile to be sustained. This gave us a better idea of what was going on with the Empty Earth. We learned that this wasn't the Maxis who was in the house that made this place. This was a different Maxis from a different timeline. We understand now why there's a base, because Maxis had built it. We understand why this also houses different artifacts, like, say, the Chronorium, because that's what Maxis had built the base for. We also understand why it's falling apart, because Maxis had made this place way too fragile for it to be sustained, and that's why it falls apart when, say, Stuhlinger touches a tree. And what this does is basically come together to fill in some of the gaps. But here's a question that I have just based on these two timelines, because it doesn't seem like there's a good explanation of what is Zero Base and what is the Empty Earth and what is the difference. Because here we have our characters in a place, and this isn't a realm in which humans don't exist because the zombies are still chasing after people. And they, I guess, get their blood sampled at Zero Base, but then they're teleported to the Empty Earth. And the Empty Earth is also called Zero Base, I guess, because that's what it says in the timeline. So that begs the question, which is Zero Base? And is the Empty Earth also part of the Zero Base or not? And is this place in the original timeline also a part of Zero Base? Or is Zero Base a place that spans multiple timelines? As you can see, it already becomes difficult to explain. And let's not also look into the fact that the zombies aren't chasing after people in this timeline. This is very familiar. We've seen this before in Zombies. This is basically what happens in almost every single Fireside trailer, as well as the beginning of every Zombies game. Before every Zombies game, you're in the selection menu and our characters are just sitting in the woods while zombies walk among them and the zombies aren't chasing after them. Are they in Zero Base during these moments of zombies, or are they a part of the Empty Earth? And if that's the case, why are they in Empty Earth? Why are they just sitting here? When in their journey do they go to Empty Earth? Are they at Empty Earth in between each mission? Do they make stops there? And why isn't Empty Earth falling apart when they are there? What's going on here? Is this a different timeline where there is also another Empty Earth where basically humans never existed? This to me is why the Empty Earth is one of the most unexplainable places in all of Zombies. We have a good idea of what's going on here based on the comics and the timeline, but as we continue to dive into what's really going on in the Zero Base, all we really realize is that we have a poor understanding of this place, and hopefully it can be explored later on in future games and future comic books.